So I'm going to show you how to take these cowboy chords on the E string, the 6th string, the A string, the 5th string, and the D string, the 4th string, okay? Those roots, how to turn them into jazz chords, from cowboy chords to jazz chords, that's the topic. But I'm going to talk about, first of all, just the construction of this particular chord, because most people are taught, you know, put your fingers here, put that finger here, put that finger here, open strings, and you strum all 6, and you have an E chord, and they say, okay, take out that finger, and it's E minor. And this is all very important to know. You want to be able to do it so it's automatic, and this is E7. Those are the 3 most popular and important types of chords: major, minor, and dominant. So this chord here, that's an E7. It's called a dominant 7, but on the chart, the paper, it would just say E7. But when we talk music theory, we say it's a dominant 7th chord. Okay, so we're going to talk about, again, the construction of this chord on the guitar here, because, you know, there's 6 strings being played for this E major chord. It's a major triad, and I know a triad is just 3 notes, right? But there's a lot of doublings happening here. Okay, so let's talk about that by naming the notes. And I really suggest that you take this little mini lesson here and grab a piece of paper and go through it yourself. Okay, so here's an E major chord. Now, if you were to, by the way, the PDFs are free. I'll have to post them in this particular live stream because I switched over from my other live stream to this one. But there'll be a batch of free PDFs in the link in the description, okay? And it deals with theory and knowing your major scales. But for now, I'm gonna kind of just bypass a little bit of that and just tell you the notes of this E major chord. But I want you to do it with me, say it with me, and there'll be a guitar fingerboard diagram too that will help you. We've got E, the root of the chord, okay? We've got B, the 5th of the chord. Then we got E, again, that's an octave, but it's still E, it's the root, okay? Then we have a G sharp, and that's what makes it major, okay? And then we have a B, that's the 3rd, the major, okay? And then we have a B, the 5th, again, we had a 5th down here too, and we often know these 5ths as power chords, you know, like you're playing rock, root and 5th. When you see a power chord on the paper, it would say E5, and that means root in the 5th. Sometimes they'll even say no 3rd, because if you add the 3rd to a power chord, then it's major or minor, depending on what kind of 3rd that is. So in this example here, we've got E major, because we've got the major 3rd, the G sharp. So again, we have the root, we've got the 5th, we've got the root again, the octave, and then we've got the 3rd, G sharp. And then we've got the 5th again, and then the E again, so the root 3 times. E, E, and E. 3 different octaves for that root, okay? And that's great for cowboy chords and rock if you want a really big, full chord. But for jazz, we don't need to double all those roots. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How to take these cowboy chords, E, and then make it major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, flat 5. Diminished 7, but unfortunately we can only go so far on this particular E shape here, so that's where we're going to start to move them around. And you might think, oh no, we're going to do bar chords. No, the jazz chords, you don't have to do bar chords, so that's kind of the beauty of it. So again, this is E major. Say it with me. We've got the root, the 5th, like it's a power chord, and then the octave, which is just a root, and that's again like this. Rock music uses root, 5th, root, with the octave, okay? And then the 3rd. So the 3rd is on the 3rd string, and that's what defines a chord, whether it's major or minor. So root, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, root. Okay, it's the octave, 3 roots when we have the root on the 6th string. Now we're gonna flat the 3 here on this 3rd string by lifting up this finger, and we all know this chord is E minor. Now you might play it like this. I play it like this sometimes. Okay, it doesn't matter too much. I'll play it like this sometimes if I know I'm going to move it around it as a bar chord formation. E minor. See my finger behind the nut here? It's like a 0 fret. So if I slide it up to the 3rd fret, it's now G minor. 5th fret, A minor. Okay, these are all going to be movable, and that's the whole process for these jazz chords. But mainly I want you to know what you're getting when you're playing this E major chord that most teachers just say, put your fingers here, or you'll see it in a chord diagram, a grid, we often call them. So root, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, and then the root again. Now if we lift up this finger, the 3rd, we flat the 3rd, it's minor. Okay, so we've got E major and E minor. And again, this is the whole concept behind bar chords. G major, G minor. It's that 3rd string. You just lower the 3rd from major to make it minor. So again, if you're new to bar chords, you want to start with your E major chord like this, and then refinger it so that this finger is behind the nut, and then just slide it. F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A major, and then to make it minor, take off that finger. Okay, just like this, E major to E minor. But I actually suggest that you refinger it, so you're actually doing E major like this. See, you're prepping yourself for that bar chord, and then minor. Okay. Minor. And then of course you got to know your bass note strings on the 6th string and the 5th string. And I even recommend that you learn them on the 4th string. Again, grab that free PDF that's in the description there that goes through the roots on the 6th, 5th, and 4th string shapes for the jazz chords, okay? So let's talk about this a little bit further and get into the jazz chord for the E shape here. So the first thing we're going to do is, well, actually, let me show you what a dominant 7th chord is. E7, that's what you'll see on the chart. You probably already know it like this. It's a very bluesy chord when you play that like an E7 chord. So this is E7. What we did was we took the root, the 8, and we lowered it to a D. So E to D, it's called a flatted 7. Again, check out the formulas too, because you're going to want to memorize these formulas for the 7th chords. 7th chords are 4-note chords, tetrads if you want to call them that. They have 4 notes, 1, 3, 5, and 7. There's a lot of different combinations. 5 of them that I'm showing you on that worksheet. You're going to see major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, in this order, minor 7, flat 5, that's also known as half diminished, and then the fully diminished 7. So there's 5 types of 7th chords that are most commonly used in order for you to play any of these jazz songs. We call them jazz standards often. Or to jazz up a song. If you like a folk song, you can jazz it up by adding 7ths in, and it sounds jazzier. So here's E major triad. Okay, let's review one more time. I know I'm being redundant, but root, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, and the root. So now we're going to take the root here, this octave, right here, this one, not the top one. We're going to take this one and lower it 1 fret. And now that's going to be E major 7. So we have the root, the 5th, the 7, the 3rd, the 5th, and then the octave again. And yes, we don't need all the doublings. Again, with the jazz chords, we don't need to double everything. You know, we don't need to have 3 roots, 2 5ths, and we just need 1 of each. So let's go ahead and move this shape here. I'm going to show you how to do this, and then this will get you started on this whole process. See my finger behind the nut here? This is now E major 7 because of the formula 1, 3, 5, 7. Now I'm going to slide it up to G. There's a G major 7. Okay, I took the octave here, G to G, and I lowered it a half step, and that's now G major 7. Okay, so it's 1, 5, 7, 3, 5, 1. That's how I like to name them, using numbers. 1, 5, 7, 3, 5, 1. Okay? Now to make it a jazz chord that you'll see on the chart, if you grab my PDF, it's free in the description. Again, this is a new live stream that I just started because the other one was not working. So this link. So I hope you're tuning in to this, and don't worry, I'll post the PDF links if you don't already have those. They're free. A lot of good theory stuff and a lot of these shapes here. This is something that I feel like a lot of teachers don't teach this. They don't teach like, okay, you know, you learn like, oh, put your fingers here. That's a D. That's A. But they don't really say like, this is a root. That's a fifth. That's the root. And that's the third. So to make it minor, you flat the third. To make it diminished, you flat the fifth. To make it major 7, you take your octave and you lower it a half step. To make it dominant 7, you flat the 7. To make it minor 7, you flat the third. You know what I'm saying? So by knowing the formulas, you don't even need the chord charts or chord grids. By knowing the formulas, and then just knowing, you know, where 1, 3, 5 are, or 8 in this case, the octave, because that's how you get the 7. You go down a half step from the octave, the 8, and you just go down a half step, that's your major 7. If you go down a whole step, that's your flat 7, and that's part of the dominant 7 chord, or minor 7 chord, or minor 7 flat 5 chord. So here's a G major 7. Okay, make sure you do that. Here's E major. Here's E major 7. I just flatted the octave, the 8, to a 7. And now I need to make it movable, so I'm going to refinger this. That's the tricky part, is we're so used to playing E like this, but I encourage you to play it like this, and then figure out the fingering like that to make it a major 7. Now slide it to G major 7. Now many of you might be saying, oh, bar chords, I can't do bar chords. I don't really want to do bar chords myself, so here's the good news. We're going to take out this power chord here. We don't need that in jazz. We don't want that. Well, maybe you do. I don't want that. It's too thick. So we've got the 5th here. We don't need it here. We only need 1/5. And then we're also going to remove this octave on top, because we don't need the G here and on top. Maybe for chord melody later, we could, you know, play some pretty chords when we're doing high note voicings. But right now, we're going to take this G major 7, 6-string version of it, with the doublings, root, 5th, 7, 1, 5, 7, 3, 5, 1, and we're going to strip it down to this. Okay. This is often referred to as a drop 3 voicing. But don't worry about the fancy drop names, just say G major 7. Now to make it dominant 7, we flat the 7. To make it minor 7, we flat the 3rd. To make it minor 7 flat 5, we flat the 5. To make it diminished 7, we flat the 7 again, so it's a double flat 7 or a 6. Okay, and that's how we get those jazzy chords there. And then of course, if you know your bass notes, meaning your 6th string, you can move it up to B flat, major 7, and go through the routine. Dominant 7, minor 7, minor 7 flat 5, and dim 7. You can also have major 6 and minor 6. Again, by knowing those formulas and knowing the numbers of the chords from the cowboy chords, you're set. Okay, so let's do it on the A string as well. So here's an A major chord, you know. We'll load this in. Don't play the 6th string. We don't want that note. We're just starting here on A. So we have the root, the 5th, the root, the 3rd, it's major 3rd this time. Hello, John, welcome. And the 5th, okay? On this A cowboy chord, open chord. What do you call them? Do you call them cowboy chords? Campfire chords? Or just open chords? Tell me what you like to call them. I was having a little conversation about that this morning with my buddy, drinking coffee. Cowboy chords? Open chords? Campfire chords? So we got this A major chord. Let's say it again. We have this A major open chord, root, 5th, root, 3rd, and the 5th again. That's it. There's no octave on top of that, unlike the other one. But it still has a root, 5th, root, which is like a power chord, this. Sounds like a Nirvana song or something, right? So we have A major. Let's say it again. Root, 5th, root. And that's 8. 3rd. That's major 3rd. 5th again. Now we're gonna flat the third, so it's minor. Okay. John, open voicing. I don't call it open voicing. I'm specifically calling these open string chords. Instead of the word voicing, this is more about the style of chords, cowboy chords, open chords. So this is A minor, this is A7. Let's talk about A7. So first of all, let's talk about A minor. So we take the A major, we take the third right here, and we flat it. So it's a minor third, flat 3. And we can put the 5th on there too for these cowboy chords. Okay. Now let's go back to major. Let's take this 8, the 1, the octave here, I call it 8, and then go down a whole step, and that's A7. We call that a dominant 7th chord, okay? If we go down only 1 fret, a half step from the 8, that's a major 7 chord. And I say jazzy, it is kind of jazzy, but it's used a lot in some pop songs as well, of course. From Beatles to Beach Boys, 70s to contemporary. It's just a nice sound. So major, A major 7, A7, A minor, and then to make it minor 7, we can take that 8 and go to the flat 7. Now let me show you, these are all movable. So here's C major 7, here's A major 7. I gotta show it to you this way again. I don't know if you caught that, it's like a little magic trick. I refingered it. See, here's A major 7, but I'm ready to slide it up to C major 7. Now, we don't need this note if you don't want to bar, just omit the 2nd string. They don't have to be bar chords. So we have 1, 5, 7, 3. If we wanted just a major triad, you would do that. That's your A shape. Again, this is just the foundation of these, what are called movable chords. Of course, it could be called bar chords, but bar chords kind of implies that you have to bar across all 6 strings or 5 strings. You can have a half bar as well, but I'm not limiting you to having to be a bar chord, so I'm just going to call it a movable chord. So it looks like I'm barring, but I'm not. If I had this note, then I'm barring. But it looks like I'm barring, but I'm not, technically. Okay, so these are just movable chords. So that's C major, that's D major, and that's E major. Again, it's super important. These are just some really important things for any style of guitar, not just jazz, just, being a guitarist. Know your bass notes on the 6th and the 5th string first, and then move to the 4th string, because that's where you're going to be creating these chords. And again, get that free PDF that's in the description. Mike's Guitar Practice Motivation. Hello, welcome, Mike. I don't think I've met you before. Best way to practice basic triads. I'm not sure, there's a lot of different ways, depending on what you want to use it for. Like I'm showing you triads here like this, as in a chord, but I also love to think, and I'll just say the best way to practice triads, just to go into this little quick topic here, because that's what live streams are about, me answering questions for you too. The best way to practice triads are to start on the top 3 strings. I think of it like a piano. I think that, if you think like a piano player, you're going to be set. So here's C major, and now this is a root 3rd 5th, 3 notes, just like the right hand of a piano. Root 3rd 5th, C, E, G, and then you flat the 3rd, so you make it minor. Okay. Now you can flat the 5th. To that, you have diminished. If you go back to major, E sharp the 5th, G sharp, you get a C augmented. So again, I think of it as like just playing the right hand of a piano, as if you're a beginner. You got to be able to do that on the guitar. So C major, minor, diminish. Learn these formulas as well. Major, augmented, back to major, and then there's 2 beautiful chords, and these are all on the worksheet here. The suspended 4 and the sus2. Here's a lot of some beautiful pop music. or music like Radiohead, you know, or whatever. So again, you want to locate the formulas. You want to know where that third is, and you go up a half step from the major third. You have a sus4. You go down a whole step from the third. You have a sus2. You want to do that with all your inversions. C major. This is first inversion. That means the third's the lowest note. So it's E, G, C. And go through the same process. Make it minor. Make it diminish. Then I go back to major. Then from the major I make it augmented by sharpening the fifth. You'll notice that this augmented shape is the same. Augmented is the only triad that has the same distance from each note to the next note. 1 to the 3 to the sharp 5 to the octave. So you got it. If you did it, if you slid it up 4 more frets or another major third interval, you now have the next inversion of it augmented. So it's just that one shape. C major, C minor, C augmented, C diminished, C major, C augmented, C major, C sus4, C sus2, C major. And then you take the last triad inversion on the top 3 strings, and you want to do this through all sets of strings. Again, grab my PDFs, they're all free on Patreon there. Take this is now the second inversion. We have the G, C, E, so that's the fifth, the root, and the third on top. Make it minor by flatting the third. Make it diminished by flatting the fifth. I'm doing a little half bar here, back to major. Now to make it augmented, from the major, you sharp the fifth. Okay, back to the major. To make it sus4, you take the third and you raise it half step, the major third. Okay, so it's 1, 4, 5. That's the formula for sus4. For sus2, take the third and go down a whole step, okay, from the major chord again. So again, to me, that's the best way to practice these triads, and then to apply them to your favorite songs. You know, sometimes I'll say, take a really easy song like Brown Eyed Girl. G, C, G, D, G, C, G, D. Notice I'm just kind of having fun. G, C, little on tune. G, D, C, D, G, E minor, C, D, G. And just have fun improvising with triads, connecting them, creating this movement. It's a lot different from just doing this. There's nothing wrong with that. Someone's got to do that in the band. But if you're playing lead guitar, you know, second guitar, you get to do the fun stuff. You know, you get to go G, C, G, D, G, C, G, D. Michael, I'm not left-handed. That's weird. I got to check the video later. I've got a lesson to get to in a second, so let me just show you these movable chords. I hope that wasn't too crazy of a little, lesson there on triads, but Mike, you asked for it. Hope that helped you. So okay, let's finish this out here. I showed you the A shape, right? The A cowboy chord. We got A major, A7, A minor 7. Okay, A major, A minor, A dominant 7, A major 7. Now we move to C. C major 7, C dominant 7, C minor 7, C minor 7 flat 5, C dim 7, C major 7, C6, C minor 6. Okay, those are the important jazz chords, and now you can see how they all come from the campfire chords, aka cowboy chords, aka open chords. The last one is a D chord. We all love the D chord. It's just the top 4 strings of the guitar. Okay, if you're playing the ukulele, it'd be G. A G chord if you're gonna have a tenor ukulele or concert or soprano uke. Oh, by the way, I've got my Soundsmith shirt on today for ukulele players. D, D major 7, D7, D minor 7. So you can almost do them all. You do, you know, you diminish them there, you can almost get all of those chords. D minor 7 flat 5. So then when you move it to G major 7, see, here's a D chord, by the way. I gotta show you this way. It's like this. See, that's the root. It comes from this as a D, but notice I'm kind of playing the 0 fret here. Now it's G. G major 7, G dominant 7, G minor 7, G minor 7 flat 5, G diminished 7. Beautiful. Okay. G6, G minor 6. Again, make sure you know the sixes as well. These are all on that worksheet. It's free. Everything's free. All the batch of PDFs that I'm including for this little mini lesson here for y'all. This is just jazz theory, jazz chord theory 101. Taking cowboy chords, E, A, and D, the open strings, those chords, and turning them into jazz chords. Get the formulas, get those worksheets. That should help you review this lesson. Share it with anybody, you know, that might be interested. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Appreciate it. If you like this lesson, please do this. I appreciate that too. And we'll see y'all next time. Cheers. I'm not sure how to end this, but we'll see.